All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakal Kwadash. I want to say double honor to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone for teaching this word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And this is the brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another lesson. And the lesson that we're about to have today is on the rich man. And it was a particularly a Bill Gates. The spirit had jumped on me just to type in, is Bill Gates a doctor? Does he have any degrees at all? And the answer to that question is no and no. And the degrees that this man does have, they're all honorary degrees, but just because this man is a wealthy man in this society, okay, he's part of the super elite, he's tied in via his family lineage, okay, because regular people might look at a seventh and third cousin, a seventh cousin 3 times removed. You might look at that and think that, oh, that's nothing. But according to these super elite, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, their lineage is everything to them, and they know exactly where their people are at in the earth. And they set a lot of their own up. And they have different names because they changed their names. But that's what really inspired this lesson. And then it inspired me also to go into a quote that John D. Rockefeller said. He wanted a nation of workers and not thinkers. All right. And so this also proves that Bill Gates he's connected. He's well connected, super connected via his family line. Okay. He's a Rockefeller. He's a Rothschild, you know, and these rich men in this world, and I'm not talking about somebody like Jay-Z or no, those are not rich men. Those are just welfare cases. But the super elite, these are the real rich men, the real wealthy men. And Bill Gates is just he's just a lesser one of them. But he's still tied in. It says Bill Gates is related to the Rockefellers, albeit quite loosely. According to the famous Ken, Bill's seventh cousin, 3 times removed, is Nelson Rockefeller, the 41st Vice President of the United States. Nelson's grandfather is billionaire John D. Rockefeller. Despite this, Bill says that he has no similarities between himself and the oil. He sees no similarities between himself and the oil entrepreneur, which that's a lie. One, they're both Edomites. Two, they both want to. The eugenics, the chief eugenics. Okay, Genesis, their chief eugenicist, meaning that they want to get rid of the what they deem as the the dredge of population, which is us, the Israelites. Okay, and he's forwarding what his grandfather was all about, which was the extermination of the children of Israel. All right, and the total enslavement of the world, and that's what they really want. It says, it is completely coincidental that Gates and Rockefeller are related. How is that coincidental? Or is it true that success runs in the family? Which this is not success. These people they're set up. See, you look at a person like Bill Gates and think that, well, he dropped out of college, he became a billionaire because he went off and started a computer company called Microsoft. But all that was set up for him. All of that was set up for him to do these things so that he could forward the super elite's agenda, ultimately pushing the MOTB, because that's all a part of this whole thing, as well as the population control. Now, Bill Gates is not a chief insider, but he is an insider. Why? Because he goes back to these super elites that never wanted you individuals, especially the Israelites, you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, that never wanted you to be anything more than a slave to them. It says, is it completely coincidental that Gates and Rockefeller are related, or is it true that success runs in a family? Stick around for a full analysis of the similarities between the business moguls, who are the Rockefellers. Much like the Kardashians and the British royal family, the Rockefeller family is one of the most well-known dynasties in the world, which the British royal family go back to them, but the Kardashians are nobodies. Currently in their 6th generation, the family's fame and fortune primarily emanates from the 1800s with the birth of John D. Rockefeller. I'm not going to go all into that shit. Formula for success, the alliance and green revolution. The similarities don't, it says, where is that? Formula for success. It says, from this brief history, it is easy to see why comparisons are made between John D. Rockefeller and Bill Gates. Both men are white Americans. No, they're not white. They're Edomites. Okay? They're Edomites who established groundbreaking businesses that went on to become hugely successful in the process of earning them millions of dollars. So how do their immense wealth compare? We don't care about their wealth. Their wealth is nothing. It says, if you take in account to the inflation, GT John D. Rockefeller would be worth $340 billion today in today's money, which they are. They're worth trillions of dollars. Similarly, at the time of Rockefeller's net worth was equal to 2.5% of the gross national product. For U.S., Bill Gates' net worth is currently equal to 0.5% of both businessmen were extremely successful, driven, but Rockefeller was infinitely richer. Yeah, because he's a super elite. And the similarities don't end there. After dissolving Standard Oil and selling shares in Microsoft, both John and Bill focus on their philanthropic. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is currently the world's largest philanthropic organization, and Bill has contributed 33.5 billion of his wealth. You know, surprisingly, the two foundations, it says, it follows in the footsteps of the Rockefeller Foundation, which we know that the Rockefeller Foundation is behind all manners of wickedness. You know, Planned Parenthood, the education system, the indoctrination system, the medical system, all of that. The Rockefellers have their hand in, which all those things kill people, which namely is the Israelites. You know, it says, together we share a vision. Speaking on collaboration, Melinda said, together we share a vision for creating lasting change that will help millions of most vulnerable people in Africa lift themselves out of extreme poverty. Well, you Edomites keep them in extreme poverty because you don't want the so-called Negro to have a place to go to where he could thrive. Not that we're from Africa, but just imagine if Africa was thriving, Jake would have been left. But y'all do that on purpose. We're honored because mainly most of their work is done in the West Africa, killing Israelites. Man, we're honored to be working with the Rockefeller team. You know, when it comes to science and religion, it is no secret that the two are wildly incompatible. While scientists take evolutionary approach, religious institutions favor creationism. The idea of the universe originates from the acts of a divine creation. As one of the most preeminent scientists of the last century, we can expect Microsoft founder Bill Gates to take an empirical approach to religion. But is this true? Bill Gates is religious. He follows Catholicism and believes in God. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And well, Catholicism is witchcraft anyway. But as a data-driven scientist, he is far from a devout Christian. And that's what they all stunt and act like they're Christians. But these are Edomites, man. This man's an Edomite. All right? And he's juiced in, man. But see, you notice that they give this man all kinds of accolades because he's a wealthy man. All right? It says he was a college dropout. Known to be a high achiever, Gates went to enroll in Harvard University in 1973 at age 18. Unbeknown to the most, however, Bill initially attended Harvard with the intentions of pursuing a law career like his father. And then it says, he dropped out in 75. Now, when you skip down here, it says this. He has a whole bunch of honorary degrees. He got an honorary medical degree too. You know, all these so-called doctorate degrees, right? But this is where it gets funny. It says it says right here, speaking at Bill Gates' graduation ceremony in 2007, Harvard University professor Stephen Hyman said, we recognize the most illustrious member of the Harvard class of 1977, never to have graduated from Harvard. He was planning for a revolution and rise of the personal computer. It seems high time that his alma mater hand over the diploma. Now, the average kid drop out of school, get college, and no matter if you rich or famous, especially Jake, you ain't finna get no free degree. But why did they give it to him? Because he's a rich man. And in this society, they reverence the rich over the poor. All right? This is Sirach. chapter 13, verse 1. No, uh, verse 3. It says, "The rich man have done wrong, and yet he threateneth withal. The poor is wrong, and he must entreat also," which means he got to beg. See, the Edomite, he's the wealthy man in the society. And I'm talking about you super elite, you Rockefellers, Rothschilds, those your ilk. You do evil and you threaten people. But if a poor man do something, poor man, he's a poor man is wrong, he has to entreat, meaning he has to beg. When you look up that word for entreat, all right, when you look up that word for entreat, it says it says to ask a person earnestly, beseech, implore, to beg, like I just said, to beg. But Esau threateneth. It says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee, but if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. If thou have anything, he will live with thee, yea, he will make thee bear and will not be sorry for it. And that's how these rich people are. I think it's another scripture says the rich man speak and hold on. Yeah, it says right here, verse 21, a rich man begging beginning to fall is held up by all his friends. Yep, they all come through his aid, right? But a poor man being down is thrust also away by his friends. So us being poor, if we're poor, our friends, we ain't got no use to the so-called friends. Our friends will leave us, man. They won't help us out. But a rich man, if he start to fall, his friends start giving him bread, giving him money, giving him assistance. When a rich man is fallen, he have many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. And that's this dude. Bill Gates, man. He speak a bunch of things that shouldn't be spoken, but yet he's justified. This dude can go on a world tour and start talking about, you know, immunizations and all kinds of stuff, and people actually listen to this man like he went to school, like he has expertise in the field of of that kind of science, man. And no one bats an eye. They just keep reflecting on his so-called billions, man. And he could care less about that because what he care about is power. He's an Edomite. It says, when a rich man speaketh, I'm sorry. It says, when a rich man is fallen, he have many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. The poor man slippeth, and yet they rebuke him too. Right, and that's what they do to us. If we slip in our speech, people will start to rebuke us, man. Say, I told you niggas don't know what they talking about, blah, blah, blah. It says, he spake wisely and could have no place, right? And we're here speaking wisely, but we don't have a place in here because we're considered the poor. Bill Gates, the Rockefellers, they could never live a life that we live. Not even a 24-hour period. They would lose their mind. They would kill themselves, man. You know? But they always got a place in this world. But us, we don't have no place. It says, when a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look what he saith. They extol it to the clouds, and they do that to this man greatly, man. You look at the interviews that this man is on, man. People humble themselves when they in this dude's presence. People speak softly. They tread carefully. They don't ask some certain intrusive questions. You know, it says, when a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look at what he saith. They extol it to the clouds. But if the poor man speak, they say, what fellow is this? So when we speak, they'll cut us off. What the hell is this nigga talking about? He don't know shit. And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him. Riches are good unto him that have no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. And that's what's going on. Like this, it said, riches are good unto him that have no sin, and Esau is drenched in sin and iniquities, man. So them riches ain't going to help him. He could buy his way. He could buy his way to a degree, which he don't care about that shit. The super elite, they don't care about degrees. They don't care about education. That's not something that's big on their thing, because when you go to these schools, you're not being taught to be thinkers. You're not taught. They talk about critical thinking. You're not taught to think critically. You're not even taught to ask questions. All you being is indoctrinated with an agenda. and then you roll with it, and you think that you learned something, but you learn nothing. It says the heart of man. It says riches are good unto him that have no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. And that's right. When this devil speaks about poor people or the most vulnerable people, they really speaking evil. It's evil to him to be poor, to want for anything. Right now, this is what his forefathers said about a nation of thinkers. John D. Rockefeller. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. John D. Rockefeller created the General Education Board, GEB, in 1903 to dispense Rockefeller funds to education. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need, well, this is what his son said. David Rockefeller. All we need is all we need is the right crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order. David Rockefeller, right? Says, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers, man. So this devil, all he want is slaves. He don't want people to be autonomous, right? He don't want people to use their ingenuity. He wants you to use your backs to enrich him. A nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers, right? It says, and I'll post these in the description box too, so brothers can read it. It says right here, why was so much funding put into schooling? Matter of fact, let's read up here. It says, have you ever had a conversation that schools don't teach you how to think? Have you ever been frustrated that you spend so many years in school and yet you come out with only the ability to regurgitate information? What if I told you that the independent thought wasn't the purpose of education in the first place? The decades before and after the 1900s was the period of the Industrial Revolution. This is where many of the legendary billionaires made their fortune via railroads and slavery and automobile, oil, etc. The idea of the assembly line was crystallizing into reality with the birth of mass production. In 1902, the General Education Board was a non-governmental organization designed to support higher education and was funded primarily by John D. Rockefeller. Throughout his lifetime, he donated approximately $180 million. The board objective were to promote farming, to establish public high schools in the South, and to develop programs for African Americans. You see how this is? They like he was a philanthropist, the so-called Negroes, man. Here it is. They made all kinds of money off of slavery, the destruction of our people, but this really was to programs that were going to program African Americans to be just even more docile and obedient servants to him, man. It says, why was so much funding put into schooling? What was his motivation? Rockefeller said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Here is a quote by Frederick T. Gates, one of the members of the General Education Board. It is in our dream, we have limitless resources. And this is why you see now in the New World, the so-called NWO going around taking all the world resources and putting it together and making the world one, because that's part of their dream, is to have limitless resources. But you got limitless resources, but you got to go to him to get it. It says in our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. We shall not search for embryo embryo great artists, painters. These are people that have these natural abilities. Painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is very simple, as well as very beautiful, a beautiful one, to train these people as we find them to a perfectly ideal life just where they are. You see, so they want you constantly on the bottom. They don't want you on the top. It says somehow we picked up the fact that being smart was undesirable, an undesirable trait. And that's right. In this society, they who do they promote to high standard and high class? The athlete, the jock, the simple guy that can throw a ball or that can run up and down a field or a basketball court. They'll pay this dude millions and billions of dollars for playing a child's game. But when you a thinker, when you use your mind, they make that sound stupid. That's why the scripture says this, in Isaiah, um, oh yeah, yep, Isaiah chapter 5 verse 20, Isaiah 5:20. It says, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." Right. So they turn everything upside down, man. Okay, they put the woe meaning destruction into you that do such a thing. You know, it says many people say that the education system in America is broken. I agree that in some areas it is, in terms of treating our teachers and students fairly. However, in terms of what we learn and how we experience learning, the education system is working exactly how it was supposed to. If you were trained to memorize and for quick recall, you were a great asset in a factory. You don't need to think. You just need to do what you were told and focus on the task at hand. And that's slavery, man. You know, it's like I always say that the whole chattel slavery beyond enriching the Edomites, super elite, and America as a whole, it was a beta program, okay, to see what this kind of condition, a constant work condition, would be on a people, and how they will respond to that oppression, right? And then they came up with wage slavery. You went from chattel slavery, meaning that you earned nothing and you did nothing but output. Then they made something called wage slave, which you still earn nothing, but you get these coupons, and through these coupons, you could basically pay for your slave conditions, man. Whether that be your apartment, your transportation, to your clothes, and to your food. So the your master, he don't gotta pay for that no more. He don't have to worry about that. You do that. So it says somehow we picked up on the fact that being smart. I'm sorry, let me read this again. It says, however, in terms of what we learn and how we experience learning, the education system is working exactly how it was supposed to. If you were trained to memorize and for quick recall, you were a great asset in a factory. You do not need to think. You just need to do what you were told and focus on the task at hand. Somehow we picked up on the fact that being smart was an undesirable trait. Those who were thinkers in school were mercilessly harassed emotionally and or physically by bullies. They were called geeks or nerds. If they weren't harassed, they were socially excluded. To this day, we as a nation are still experiencing the fallout of our education system. That's why, like, when you look at how these students learn in other countries, they're like light years ahead of the average American student. Because the average American student, I don't care if you went from grade school, kindergarten, all the way up to college, to the college level, all you being trained and indoctrinated into is being a worker for the elite. To what? To push his enterprise, to push his agenda, right? You aren't trained to think. And every now and again, if they see a naturally gifted individual, especially amongst our people, they'll pull them out of the crowd, and then amongst they'll put them amongst the elite of our people, the boule members, stuff like that. Try to get his parents to have more children like him so that they can use that individual to manipulate the rest of the masses, man. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's the truth, man. But see, all of this that's going on is about to be put to an end. Because just because John D. Rockefeller mentioned African Americans down here doesn't mean that he cared about you. That it doesn't mean that he wanted you to be thinkers. He clearly wanted you to be workers again. And they figure out another foothold to get over on you, man. That's why a lot of these programs and a lot of these organizations that came up out of the Rockefeller Foundation, they really set up to destroy our people, man. They're not set up to help you. Okay, Scripture says uh, in Sirach chapter 14, verse 5. 14 verse 5 says, "He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods." And Esau is evil to his own self. He give his kids the better education indoctrination system. So when you go to their schools, They're well funded. But when you go to African American and Latino, Native American so-called schools, they're all underfunded and destroyed. You know, the teachers are tired. They're half-assed. Anybody could be a teacher. You know what I'm saying? And all they doing is teaching an agenda. You know, they're not teaching you how to think freely. They're not teaching you how to use your mind and intellect to solve problems, to be problem solvers. They don't want that. You know, this is James 5:1. Misuse of riches, because that's what the devil has done. He's misused his riches to forward his wicked agendas, to exalt his vile men. All right, but all of that's going to come to an end because it's not going to deliver him from the judgment of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. It says misuse of riches. Go to now, ye rich men, and weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you. That's right, because all the natural resources, remember, they dreamed of a world where they have limitless resources. But how are they going to divvy out those resources? Well, you got to be a part of their system. They got all the gold, all the silver that they can mine, and they got it put in a vault somewhere. You know, multiple vaults, not just one, multiple vaults scattered across the earth. And they just sit there. It's not doing nothing. It's not being used for its intrinsic values, intrinsic properties. Nah, it's not. It's just being shifted via paperwork ledgers from one person to the next. But all that's going to be coughed up because it says your gold and your silver is cankered, okay, and rust. Now let's look up that word for cankered real quick. That word, it says your gold and silver is cankered. In the Greek, is the Greek word for cankered is
Strong's G 2728. Katiao.
katiao. It says rust. It says rusted over or covered with rust, man. Their wickedness, their evil. All right, and it says, and as canker, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers, and who are the hire of the laborers? We are the Israelites, man. We're the laborers. The hire of the laborers have reaped down your fields, right? We set up everything for them. We worked hard. While blood, sweat, and tears, we reaped their fields down while they benefited from it, which is of you kept back by fraud, right? It's all kept back by fraud. A great example of that is the sharecropping industry, right at the chattel slavery was over in America. You know, and even to this very day, the money that you spend, the so-called money that we spend, people die over, people sell their bodies and souls for, it's nothing but useless paper. That's all the fuck it is that you use as coupons to buy goods and services, man. But it's really nothing. It ain't backed by nothing. And it's all of that, all of this stuff is kept back by fraud. So it says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, man. So the cries are, whose cries are that? It's ours, the Israelites' cries, man. The Lord heard it. He heard it, man. And he's going to deliver us out of this place, and he's going to destroy this rich man. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just. Who are the just? We are. And the so-called white man, the devil, Esau, Edom, starting off with your super elite, who we talking about right now, those are the ones that's chiefs behind this shit. And they killed the just, man, and they condemned us. And he doth not resist you, right? Because we don't have no power against this man. But there's going to come a time where that power is going to be taken out. So you can give yourself all the fake accolades. You can set up all of these foundations and shit. But in the end, it's not going to deliver you. It's going to be to your detriment, you know? And, so I just wanted to bring this out. I didn't even want to make this lesson that long, but I saw this article, these two articles, and I thought that, it might be edifying. So with that, I'm going to say shalom and on to the next.